So here are all the snakes from the first tier list video that we did. So I'm not going to be redoing the tier list in this video, I'm just going to be adding like maybe another 12 or 15 snakes to it. Apologies for my voice sounding a little bit different. I've been sick for a little while and I lost my voice for about a week. My throat hasn't been this sore since my extra credit classes at university. I've got to do something about the echo in here as well. Before I jump on into this, let me clarify that this is just my biased opinions, remember. This is my tier list. You don't need to agree with it. So if you disagree with anything currently on my tier list, or something that I'm about to put on the tier list today, that's too bad. This is my video and I'm gonna do what I want. So same as before, I've got my computer just off screen here, so I can see what I did before and I can see what I'm doing now. I don't remember doing any of this. I mean, a corn snake in legendary status, that's pretty good, I agree with that. Why the f is the Kenyan Sambo in Met being a mistake, if anything? Alright, it looks good enough to me. Let's jump on in and add to this. First snake of today, a Texan Rat snake. Right, well I own 3 of these buggers, and have done for quite a while now. 2 of mine are nice, and 1 of them is a sarky little bitch. So knowing that, where do I put you on the tier list? I mean, if all of mine were nice, I'd probably put them in the cool tier, because the 2 nice ones are just giant corn snakes, and you can't get much better than that. But because of the sarky bitch, they are going to lose some points. Because you've got to think about this statistically. Let's assume that 1 in 3 Texas rat snakes are right little sods. That's a big risk when you go to buy a new reptile. There's a 1 in 3 chance that yours is going to suck. So I think because of that, I'll put them in mid. Mid seems right to me. It just depends on the temperament of your individual snake on this one, really. Otherwise, I'd put them in cool. So next up, we have an African egg-eating snake. I have one of those as well. You're going to sense a bit of a theme with this video. I mean, I'm putting them in cool. For sure, no real argument on this one. I mean, these guys are snakes, well that part's pretty obvious, but all the negatives that come along with snakes, they don't have. And all the positives that come along with snakes, they have those, and then some. Like feeding rodents is definitely a negative when it comes to keeping snakes. Feeding an egg? That's pretty easy. And it's also less wasteful, because if that snake decides to not eat that rodent, that really sucks. If the snake decides to not eat the egg, whatever, it's not that bad. I can buy a pack of eggs for the cost of 1 rodent. So, you know. Snakes can also be relatively intimidating, especially for new keepers, because they're mainly scared of getting bitten. I mean, if you're scared of getting bitten from an African egg-eating snake, then you've got other problems. They don't have teeth. So, I mean, they don't know that they don't have teeth, I'll tell you that. So they will try to bite you, but there's nothing behind it, so don't worry. So if you're trying to convince your partner to let you have a snake, this is pretty easy of an argument, I'd say. Say, I want a snake. They say, oh, I don't want to feed them rodents. This one doesn't eat rodents. I don't want them to bite. This one doesn't have teeth. Checkmate, bitch. I'm getting a snake. And an African egg-eating snake's not settling by any means, and it's a good gateway to get someone who's not fond of the idea of keeping snakes into them. I mean, if you struggle to convince your partner to let you have an egg-eating snake, you're probably not very high on the totem pole, and you probably haven't even started eating solids yet. So, cool tier, easy, every day. Next up, we have the blonde hognose snake, the Madagascar blonde hognose snake. I currently have 2 of these, Bolton Hunter. I think I've had a total of 4 or 5 over the time of me keeping snakes. I mean, I'd probably put them in the same tier as I put the Western hognose, to be fair. They're very, very similar. They're a little bit faster. Sorry, let me rephrase that. One of them's called Bolt. They're a lot faster than the Westerns, but their temperaments are very similar. They don't bite, they more just kind of nuzzle you with their nose and stuff like that. And they don't have as much attitude as the Westerns. But I'd probably put them in the same tier, so where did I put the Westerns? Looks like they're in the cool tier? Cool it is. I hope these guys become a bit more popular in the hobby. They are a fantastic snake. Next up, we got the green Anaconda. F me. I mean, what the hell do I do with that? The largest snake in the world. By weight, that is anyway. And we all know that I don't tend to rank the heavy-bodied snakes very highly. But saying that, a green Anaconda is a little bit different. They are the biggest, after all. They deserve a little bit of respect here. Like, to have a giant enclosure with a green Anaconda, I just think that would be really cool. It's not really a pet, though. I'd say it's more of a zoo exhibit, if anything, as opposed to a pet. So I've been putting all the big snakes in meh, by the looks of it. I'm going to bump them up to mid, because I do think it would be really cool, but it's probably out of my reach, most people's reach. And I don't know if I class it as a pet, more of a zoo exhibit. Right, we've got the Reticulated Python next. So now we've got the longest snake in the world. I mean, not all Reticulated Pythons get giant. The mainland ones do, and I believe they're the only snake, maybe that and the green Anaconda, that have actually been found to have potentially eaten people. So that's always a bonus, especially if they're people you don't like. But you have some of the dwarf retics as well, and you also have super dwarfs. So those are basically the same snake, genetically, just a lot smaller, I believe. I think you can get a super dwarf to be less than 10 feet long. So I mean, that would be pretty cool. You've got all the things that make a giant retic really epic into a small little package of hopefully less than 10 feet long. Hopefully less than that would be nice. So this is another snake where I kind of struggle looking at them as a pet, especially for most people. We're not talking about the big guys on YouTube that have giant facilities. We're talking about people in their basements, most likely. Like a 25-foot snake, it's not really practical. Getting a super dwarf, that's a realistic pet. I could see that happen, and I could be behind that. But the problem with the dwarf retics and the super dwarf retics, and trust me because I tried to buy one not too long ago, is the fucking cost. Jesus Christ, you'll need to sell a kidney to get a proper super retic. So the price isn't really hobbyist friendly yet. Don't even know if it ever will be. So I'm going to put them in meh along with all the other big giant snakes. Personally, I probably wouldn't get a retic above a Burmese python if you wanted a giant snake. But if the super dwarfs were more common, then they would definitely go up to maybe mid. But alas, they're not. Righties, we've got the garter snakes up next. So I know that there are a lot of species of garter snake. We're not going to go through all of those. We're just going to do garter snakes as a whole here. Keep it simple. So this is a snake that can live communal. At least I believe they all can anyway. Which is pretty cool. That's a pretty cool feature. I mean, I'm going to consider the garter snake image here to basically represent all garter snakes as a whole. They're not all as pretty as this one. Some of them are actually even prettier. But where do we put you? You know what? I'm going to put them in mid. Mid feels about right. Next up, we've got the Rosy Boa. I got a friend that's got a few of these. She's been trying to get them to breed, but she hasn't had much luck yet. Fingers crossed for her though. I mean, they're a smaller bodied snake, and they're pretty chill, or at least hers are anyway. I don't know if that's the disposition of all of them. Ow, chuck them in mid. Don't really know much about them, to be fair. So we've got the, what is that? Emerald Tree Boa. We've also got the Emerald Tree Python, or Green Tree Python, further on in this list as well. So I'll do both of these together actually, because in fairness, they're both very similar. Despite what some of you might say in the comments, or you might get angry at me for that, I see them as basically the same fucking thing. They are cool though. I won't deny that. They are both very cool snakes. They are fucking pricey though, goodness me. For a snake that's just gonna perch. Can't really handle them all that much. But they are a dream snake for pretty much every snake keeper. They're one of the Mount Rushmore snakes for pretty much all of us. So I'll put them both in cool. Feel like that's fair. Next up, we got carpet python, an Australian snake. Which actually, I don't even remember what snakes we did. Some of them might have also been Australian. Whatever, we're on this now. I mean, I have two friends that have carpet pythons. They both have one each. And both of those carpet pythons are bitey little grumpy buggers. And they're not little anymore. They were, now they're bigger grumpy buggers. Personally, they just seem like giant pains in the ass. Or at least the ones that I've been, you know, subject to anyway. Not all of them might be like this, but the ones I've seen, they're little f***ers. And they are a relatively big snake. And we all know I don't tend to rate big snakes very highly. And these are big snakes that I've seen try to bite people. This is not looking good for them, to say the least. I mean, this is a hard one, because I am judging this snake primarily on the two that I've seen my friends have. And I know they do not handle theirs very often. So that might come into play. But I don't have to worry about that. This is my biased list. I can do what I want, right? My rules. Alright, okay. I'm going to put myself in the scenario that I wake up tomorrow and I come down to the snake room, and right here is an enclosure with a carpet python in it. What is the first initial feeling that's going to come to my mind? Oh, a carpet python. Yeah. Kind of underwhelming. Meh. I mean, I bet this one's going to piss a lot of people off, but f it. Who cares? I believe that is a bull snake there. Bull snake or pine snake, whatever. Same thing. I'm going to put them in meh, I think. Gonna put them in meh. Slightly bigger version, more often grumpy version of a Texas rat snake, at least compared to the ones that I have anyway. In fairness, I try to put thought into each one of these individually, but with this one it was just instant meh. I mean, a lot of this tier list comes down to my personal experience and exposure to most of these snakes. I mean, to be honest, I'd probably rank the bull snake alongside the Texan, but they're bigger. That loses them points, in my mind. So I'm gonna keep them meh. Let's move on. The Taiwan beauty snake, which I have one of these as well. I'm about to rank the Taiwan beauty snake above a bull snake, and that's probably going to piss off a lot of people. I mean, I own a Taiwan beauty snake. His name is Cleo, and he's about 7 feet long. And I have a friend that has an adult female, which is about, I don't know, 10 or 11 feet long. And both of them are pretty chill. I mean, they have their moments, but they're more likely to run away than stand up and fight. Whereas, you know, bull snake, stand up and fight. I'm more into cowards, I think. I mean, I really like Taiwan beauties. They're not great for new keepers, I'll say that. They're not great for new people. Maybe do something a little bit smaller and a little less flighty, bitey maybe even, than a Taiwan right off the gate. Probably a good idea. Start with a corn snake, guys. I'm going to put them in the mid category. I feel like they're a good, solid snake, beautiful coloration. They get big enough, I wouldn't want something much bigger than them, but they are a bit flighty and they aren't great for handling, really, so I don't think I could put them much higher than that. Giant Madagascar Hognose snake. Ah, this is f***ing easy, this one. That's another legendary snake right there. Easily one of my favorite snakes, if not my most favorite snake. I've owned 2 of these in my time. One of them died from old age, and the other one I sold because I no longer had the female, so it made no sense to keep him. However, selling Little Astro did take a lot out of me. It is the only snake that I had second thoughts with after selling for almost a month after he'd been rehomed. He's really the snake that when I sold, I was disappointed with myself for having done it. I'd love to start with a baby Madagascar Hognose snakes, which I actually saw recently on Kijiji, our version of Craigslist here in Canada. A couple of babies that were born. So they are being bred. So I don't think I'm going to do it this year. I think that'll be a next year thing. Probably 2026 I'll get back into it and I'll start with a baby and I'll raise them up. And I think that would be really cool. Rather than getting them in wild caught. I don't really want to be a part of that anymore. But I mean, these snakes are epic. As I said, both of mine were wild caught. The female had scars and everything all over her from all of the stuff she'd been going through during her life. Like, never tried to bite. Nothing like that. The male would musk every now and again, but the female, the big female, never tried to bite, never tried to musk, never even tried to run or hide, really. She was just very chill. Big, beautiful snake. At one point I had to medicate her, so I had to kind of get a syringe down her throat, which getting a snake to open its mouth when you want it to open its mouth is almost impossible. I mean, I could talk about these guys all day. They're big, dopey, just great fun snakes. Legendary, f***ing right. So my voice is kind of hurting now. I've been gargling for too long. So I'm just going to do one more snake here. I'm going to call it a video. So what we got? Blood python. Get right into the mistake pile. Don't want this. I don't want one of those.